Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. This week, my message is a direct response to a video made by Hank Green on his Vlog Brothers channel. The title of that video is School Broken, and you shared some interesting insights on the American education system. And now, time for mine. As you pointed out, education should be about building a toolkit and then learning how to use those tools. The fancy term we use for this is discrimination and inference learning. Discrimination learning, building the toolkit. Inference learning, learning how to use that toolkit. Totally awesome and valid things. In fact, one of the greatest educational philosophers of our time, John Dewey, said that education, therefore, is a process of living, not a preparation for future living. Isn't that great? But the thing is, we, the educational community, have a real problem when it comes to assessment, what you call tests. Some of the problems are our own, but some of the problems are what's put on us. We are responsible for growing the minds of young students. But growing minds and making sure everyone reaches the same point at the same time are two very different things. So I want to talk about some of the pressures surrounding tests and the problems in creating meaningful assessment. First, why are tests or assessment difficult to execute efficiently in the American education system? Having been someone who went through the American education system both as a student and as a teacher, I've noticed some things. I'll say thank you for recognizing the awesomeness that is free education. Though it must be said that despite that, sometimes even that isn't enough to make American education effective because, how can you focus when you haven't had something to eat? And even though some kids receive 2 free meals at school, how can you focus when you don't have warm enough clothes or shoes that aren't worn through? Or be able to take a shower regularly because your water was cut off. It's not something that education can really counterweight all the time. That's just poverty, my friend, and poverty sucks. Once you're in it, it's really hard to get out. If you're poor, cold, and hungry, how can you be expected to do well on a test? How can your school be expected to help you grow academically if you aren't satisfactorily stable on a basic level? So, class size. There's this bad trend in class sizes that they keep going up. Most people, when they're asked, would you rather be in a class of 20 or 40, would pick the lower class size. In that situation, you get more attention from the instructor. More time on individual students definitely translates to spending more time on measuring individual student growth. Because we're a system that tends to favor social promotion, meaning that at the end of the year you move on to the next grade, no matter what. Because of this, student ability and aptitude is all over the place. How do you write one-size-fits-all assessments when you have one kid at a first grade reading level, another at a 5th grade reading level, and this is 3rd grade? The older the kids are, the greater the gap. For anything that's not 100% objective, creating an authentic assessment takes a lot of skill. I'm in my 11th year of teaching and I'm starting to feel like my assessments are pretty good, though I am constantly tweaking them. You don't graduate with a degree in education and get it all perfect right away. And there aren't a lot of systems in place to help mentor young teachers to grow both as an instructor and as an assessor. Okay, let's look at the other side of this. Why is it really difficult to make any changes in our testing culture? So in addition to wanting to be able to measure student growth, just because we want to be able to do so, because it's important to help them grow in various subject matters, there are some political pressures that make it extra crunchy to alter very much in assessment. Let's start with standards. Now, actually, having standards isn't problematic itself, but how those educational standards get used, that can be a problem. And in my experience, it just gets worse and worse. No Child Left Behind said, okay, now we've made some standards, now every child must be at these standards or else. It's a lovely mentality, but it tends to negate the human element of education. It forgets that each child is an individual with individual problems and backgrounds. It doesn't really congratulate growth. It only values meeting standards. Even if a kid grew from a 1st to a 4th grade reading level in 1 year, if they aren't at grade 5 reading level, punished. So what happens when you fail to make the grade as a school? You receive less funding, you go on probation, and potentially you're a failing school. Public humiliation. No pat on the back for student growth. No thumbs up for helping the emotional well-being of a child to help them even focus on school. Nope, just a stamp on the forehead that says failure. Is it any wonder that schools spend so much time teaching you how to shove information into your brain so you can do well on a test in the short term? The pressures are huge. The pressures are there not just for the individual reputation of teachers and schools, but also to even be a school for those children. The teachers and administrators work so hard so that they can continue to have a neighborhood school for the children and community at large. One thing that's really bugged me about standardized tests in particular is that I have no idea if the tests are at all valid. I have no idea if this assessment, which supposedly marks if the kids have met the standards for reading and math, is at all an authentic assessment for the very concepts that they're being graded on. None. In fact, some evidence would lead one to believe that the tests are the very opposite of valid and/or helpful. So, are schools broken? That question is way too simplistic. Are schools trying really, really friggin' hard despite political agendas and educational reformers that change every year? Yes. Yes, they are. But for now, a haiku. The environment can be quite treacherous, but schools are trying hard. This video needs some levity. How about a roadrunner and a hanklerfish singing a duet?
I say out too late. Got nothing in my brain. That's what people say. That's what people say.